Welcome to today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio to lose weight for the last time in 2024. Visit myphdweightloss.com. So as expected, former President Donald Trump yesterday appealed the decision to remove him from Maine's Republican primary ballot for his role on January the 6th on the protest at the U.S. Capitol. Meanwhile, The View co-host Sara Haines argued that Democrats' efforts to remove Trump from multiple states' ballots for 2024 would only backfire by creating what she called a vision of a rigged election. I'll get you up to date on what the ladies on The View's thinking about over there. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says that Americans just need to give President Biden's economic policies a little more time to take effect, as voters remain somewhat skeptical and a bit sour on the president, and said that voters were straying from the president and the Democrat Party because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I thought the pandemic was over. Am I missing something here? And in a letter to members of the Harvard community, President Claudine Gay says she's stepping down as president, but will return to the Harvard faculty despite widespread plagiarism allegations against her. The U.S. national debt topped $24 trillion for the first time.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
Your story was powerful when you delivered it up at the General Assembly. People are still talking about your story.
The CON has gone away in the state of South Carolina, and I want to personally thank you.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills, but I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
As expected, former President Donald Trump appealed the decision to remove him from Maine's Republican primary ballot. Trump appealed Maine's decision made by Democrat Shanna Bellows, who became the first Secretary of State in history to bar someone from running for the presidency under the rarely used Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, according to the Associated Press. The provision Bellows used prohibits anyone who engaged in insurrection from holding office. The appeal will now head to Maine's Supreme Court. Trump is expected to file an appeal on a similar ruling made by the Colorado Supreme Court directly to the U.S. Supreme Court. The nation's highest court has never issued a decision on Section 3, and the Colorado's Court 4-3 ruling that it applied to Trump was the first time in history the provision was used to block a presidential candidate from appearing on the ballot. We'll all be watching very closely as this makes its way through the court system. Meanwhile, The View co-host Sara Haines argued that Democrats' efforts to remove President Trump from various states' ballots. Remember, there are other states out there that have pending litigation. She said that this would backfire by creating what she called a vision of a rigged election. Last week, Maine's Democrat Secretary of State, as we mentioned, Shanna Bellows, ruled that Trump was barred from running for president in her state because he allegedly engaged in insurrection. Now, he's never been charged with insurrection, keep that in mind, but she interprets it as he did. The Maine decision followed a similar ruling by Colorado Supreme Court, which also blocked Trump. Yesterday, The View, Haines argued that these efforts would cause more division and would simply reinforce Trump's position that Democrats are trying to interfere in the 2024 election. Haines said that she agreed with former Obama advisor David Axelrod, Democrat California Governor Gavin Newsom, who both have argued that this would hurt Democrats more than help them. Here's the argument.
Here is that I actually agree with Governor Gavin Newsom and David Axelrod. These are Democrats, leading Democrats, that say this would really cause a division that's almost insurmountable. And as someone that believes January 6th was that bad,
so
wait 1 second.
So what are you saying?
Wait, just 1 second. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to hold this. I think they're going to overturn it, and it won't just be the originalists. I bet it's a 9-0 vote. I actually don't think they will hold this.
So you
but I
think they should leave it to the voters or not?
I think they should leave it to the voters. But I think the division this will cause, because what will happen is that martyrdom will be one step more. We have a nation that doesn't believe in democracy, doesn't believe in the voting. Everyone that loses says it was rigged and failed. I think this will create a visual to people that this was a rigged election by doing it. I do.
I think that the law will stand.
Maybe there is a little bit of common sense over on The View. That was Joey Behar that you could hear trying to interrupt, saying that, and of course she is a staunch opponent of Donald Trump. She said, I think that the law will stand and people should follow the law. Listen, if you're not going to follow an amendment, then why don't we have Taylor Swift run for president? She said. Look, don't give Taylor Swift any ideas. Behar shared a similar take on social media recently, telling former Republican Illinois Representative Joe Walsh that the law must defeat Trump. Joe, the ballot box can't compete with the third-party candidates who will take votes from Joe Biden, she said, and let us not forget the Electoral College. The law must defeat him, she wrote on X in a post that was, of course, criticized by conservatives. And that's their whole strategy here. I mean, she's just saying what some of the Democrats and the left are trying to inadvertently accomplish, but they aren't admitting what they're doing. At least Joey Behar is saying it. They can't beat him at the polls. They don't think they can beat him at the polls. So let's beat him. Let's take his name off of the ballot. Let's use the courts to do this for us. During yesterday's show, fellow co-host Sonny Hostin also commended Maine and Colorado's decisions to take Trump off of their ballot, saying that these decisions were based off of black-letter constitutional law. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your comments are welcome on the Truth text line. You can leave a quick voice message as well, or send me a quick email, joey@joeyhudson.com. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that Americans just need a little more time. I'm not sure we'll survive a little more time, to be quite honest with you. She said that we needed more time for Bidenomics to take effect as she continues to see the polls spiraling downward. No one in the United States right now believes that Joe Biden's economic policies are a success, because we're living it. When we go to the grocery store, when we pay our mortgage or our rent, when we were shopping for Christmas just a few weeks ago. MSNBC host Willie Geist asked Jean-Pierre about how she would explain key voting blocks, like young voters, quote, straying from the president and looking at other choices like Donald Trump.
How do you explain the groups that have supported Joe Biden for so long, Democrats for so long, now kind of looking around, actually, not and among young voters, too, not just that they're looking at Donald Trump, but they're looking at other choices. How do you explain them sort of straying from this president, from the Democratic Party?
So I'm going to be super mindful of 2024 as we're into an election year. Look, we understand what the American people went through these past 3 years, right? We came out of a pandemic, right? A pandemic that we haven't seen in 100 years. And when the president walked in, the economy was upside down. And so we get it. We get that it's going to take a little bit of time for folks to feel what the Bidenomics has been able to do. That's not something that I'm saying. That's something that economists have said, right? It takes a little bit of time. But it doesn't mean that the president's not going to continue to work.
Yep. Jean-Pierre said that Biden was going to, quote, finish the job. Geist also asked Jean-Pierre about Biden's diminishing support among some of the other key voting blocs like blacks and Latinos. She said, what we've done for the black community and Latino community, the black community, when the president walked in, unemployment was 9.2%, she said. Now it's under 6%. That's because of Bidenomics as we started this conversation. Very similarly, in the Latino community, we saw unemployment go down, and we saw also, when you think about wealth, the wealth gap, the economic wealth that grew within these communities, she said. Now, she likes to talk about the point that unemployment was 9.2% when Joe Biden entered the Oval Office. Now she believes that because of Bidenomics, I suppose, that it's under 6%. But yet, when she doesn't like a number, then she'll blame it on the pandemic. Or she'll blame it on the fact that they inherited an economy in the middle of a pandemic when they came into office. Jean-Pierre said that equity was part of every single piece of the president's legislation. She said, so look, the president's always put equity at the center of every policy he's put forward, every legislation that he's put forward, she said, because we understand that many communities have been left behind. We're not trying to do the trickle-down economics. We really, truly are not. That's what the president does not believe in, she said. The Bidenomics terminology, of course, has become increasingly unpopular within the Democrat Party. Some have even tried to distance themselves, some members of Congress who are facing tight races this November. A Democrat strategist told NBC News in November that it was terrible messaging. The strategist said, whoever came up with the slogan Bidenomics should be fired. It's probably the worst messaging you could ever imagine. CNN political analyst Errol Lewis warned that Biden might lose his re-election bid if he keeps touting Bidenomics, especially if voters don't perceive it in time. And folks, we're not there. I only see it getting worse between now and November. Lewis predicted, sure, the economy might be getting better, but if the voters don't perceive it in time, he's going to lose. Finally, Harvard President Claudine Gay announced her resignation yesterday. In a letter to members of the Harvard community, Gay said that she was stepping down as president, but get this, she'll return to the Harvard faculty despite the widespread plagiarism allegations that have been leveled against her. She wrote in her letter, "This is not a decision I came to easily. Indeed, it has been difficult beyond words because I have looked forward to working with so many of you to advance the commitment to academic excellence that has propelled this great university across centuries. But after consultation with members of the corporation, it has become clear that it's in the best interest of Harvard for me to resign so that our community can navigate this moment of extraordinary challenge with a focus on the institution rather than any individual." She went on to write, "I believe we've within us all that we need to heal from this period of tension and division and to emerge stronger. I had hoped that with all my heart to lead us on that journey in partnership with all of you. As I now return to the faculty and to the scholarship and teaching that are the lifeblood of what we do, I pledge to continue working alongside you to build the community we all deserve." Now, I got to ask you, what parent wants their child in a classroom with a faculty member like Miss Gay who has plagiarized other people's work to get there? Does this make sense? Does it make sense that Harvard would allow a person who has been not only accused once, twice, but multiple times of plagiarism on the very research that she did to have credentials to teach at such a school? What parent wants their child in her classroom? If you would send your child there or your grandchild there, I'd love to know why. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send me a quick text, or better yet, call and leave me a quick message. Tell me why you think it's okay for her to be on the faculty after she's resigned because of plagiarism. She should be fired outright. You agree? Maybe not. Maybe I'm being too strong. Maybe I'm being too harsh. If you plagiarize someone's work to earn your degrees, you should not be allowed to use them to teach. In a statement that was first obtained by Fox News Digital, House Republican Conference Chair Representative Elise Stefanik reacted to her resignation, saying that she had challenged Gay, as well as the presidents of MIT and UPenn, during a line of questioning at a House Education and Workforce hearing last month about whether calls for intifada or genocide of Jews on campus violated their institution's codes of conduct. Stefanik said, I will always deliver results. The resignation of Harvard's anti-Semitic plagiarist president is long overdue. Claudine Gay's morally bankrupt answers to my questions made history as the most viewed congressional testimony in the history of the U.S. Congress. Her answers were absolutely pathetic and devoid of the moral leadership and academic integrity required of the president of Harvard. This is just the beginning of what will be the greatest scandal of any college or university in history, she said. Our robust congressional investigation will continue to move forward to expose the rot in our most prestigious higher education institutions and deliver accountability to the American people. According to the Ivy League schools newspaper, the Harvard Crimson, Gay's resignation will bring an end to the shortest Harvard presidency in the university's history. The Boston Globe reported that according to their sources, Harvard's provost, Dr. Alan Garber, will become the interim president as the board starts a search for a permanent president. After congressional testimony, Gay issued an apology, and the university's board ultimately decided to stick with her despite the widespread calls from donors and members of Congress for her to be ousted. The hearing came in response to rising anti-Semitism at American universities following Hamas's October 7th terrorist attacks on southern Israel. Gay has also been at the center of a scandal in which she was accused of multiple instances of plagiarism in some of her scholarly works, if you want to call them scholarly. Charlie Covet, a Harvard University Jewish student leader, hopes that the allegations of plagiarism against Gay don't drown out calls to address the anti-Semitism on the campus. He was quoted by Fox News as saying, "Once it became clear that the plagiarism in Gay's work was part of a clear pattern, it was simply too damaging to the reputation of the university and its students for her to stay on," he said. "I hope that the plagiarism, while serious, will not overshadow what remains a serious issue on our campus, anti-Semitism and an obsessive hatred of Israel. The next president must address the concerns of the Jewish Committee on day one," he said. You agree that this lady should maintain her job in any capacity at Harvard? 864-477-5639 is the Truth text line. Love to get your comments on that. So taking a page out of Donald Trump's playbook, presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy will participate in his own town hall meeting event next week on the same night that CNN is set to host a Republican presidential primary debate in Iowa, where the caucuses are just a couple of weeks away. He's doing this after learning that he did not qualify for the next GOP debate. We'll give you the details on that in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about PhD weight loss and nutrition. Was losing weight and getting healthy part of your New Year's resolutions? It's probably one of the most popular resolutions that we see going into a new year. How many times, though, have you made that resolution only to fail within a few weeks, few months, or maybe you lose the weight, but you gain it back? That's why I would like for you to make PhD weight loss and nutrition part of that New Year's resolution. Over 3 years ago now, I met Dr. Ashley Lucas and her entire team at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. They have offices in Greenville, Asheville, Charlotte, Lake Norman. And I promise you, this is a phone call that you will never regret. If you declare that 2024 is the year of your health, is the year that you're going to lose those excess weight, that visceral fat around your waist that's so dangerous to your health, then let me encourage you to call and set up your first consultation. That number is 864-252-4925, 864-252-4925. Call right now, set up your appointment, go in, sit down with one of the fantastic team members at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, and let them tell you how they can help you get healthy in 2024. And the good news is, once you lose the weight using the tools that PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition give you, what they teach you about nutrition, because this program is based on the science of nutrition, you'll be able to maintain that weight just like I have. I lost 30 pounds. I've been able to maintain that for over 3 years now. Find them online as well at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So Vivek Ramaswamy told Fox News Digital, and this is his quote, "Establishment insiders will be on the CNN stage and outsiders will be speaking directly to the people." Now, he's talking, of course, the two remaining candidates who will be on the stage is former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley and current Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. CNN has said that to qualify, candidates must receive at least 10% in 3 separate national and or Iowa polls of Republican caucus goers or primary voters that meet CNN standards for reporting. One of the 3 polls must be an approved CNN poll of likely Iowa Republican caucus goers, the network added. CNN announced earlier yesterday that only former President Trump, I'm sorry I failed to mention him. He did qualify, but he will not be there as he has skipped all of the previous debates. So we're going to see Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis squaring off between one another. Trump, just like Ramaswamy, will be holding his own event. He'll be participating in a Fox News Channel town hall the same night and will not attend CNN's event. Ramaswamy's campaign said, "Ratings wasteland, CNN has not only guaranteed themselves the most boring presidential debate in modern history with 2 career politicians reciting consultant vetting talking points, but the network has exposed itself to be actively engaging in egregious interference with the Iowa GOP caucus and disrespecting GOP voters." He went on to say censorship, cherry-picking polls, and legal threats are just the mainstream media's latest tactics to prop up their favorite puppet. The campaign continued before adding that CNN disgracefully cut short a town hall event with Ramaswamy last month. Now, CNN insiders have pushed back on that, insisting that the December town hall was not cut short and any legal threats were a result of the Ramaswamy campaign uploading the entire town hall. And they took issue with the fact that he had uploaded it evidently to YouTube or to his campaign site. CNN said the criteria was set on December the 7th for the January 10th Iowa debate, and Trump, Haley, and DeSantis qualified. Ramaswamy's December CNN town hall ran the full length, and as far as uploading the video online, any individual cannot upload an hour of content from a cable television channel onto YouTube. These same rules apply, they said, to other events like NFL games, Oscars, Games of Thrones, or other programming that is copyrighted, they argue. To counter CNN's debate, Ramaswamy will have a live studio audience town hall hosted by podcaster Tim Pool from Des Moines. Ramaswamy also took to social media yesterday to detail his grievances with CNN. You may recall back in December, Ramaswamy sparred with CNN anchor Abby Phillip at the Iowa Town Hall after she attempted to press him on his explosive debate remarks, specifically his claim that January 6th was an inside job. As Ramaswamy accused the government of systematically lying in recent years and claimed that federal agents were within the crowd on January the 6th, he mocked Phillips' interruptions as proof that, quote, "the establishment doesn't approve this message," he said. Ramaswamy told the CNN anchor, "I know it's very uncomfortable for you. I know this is an uncomfortable issue for many people, but we have to do the truth here," he said. His comments were repeatedly welcomed with applause by the GOP-friendly audience as Phillips continued to spar with the White House hopeful. On the Truth text line, texter writes, "Joey, for the sake of conversation, should Haley win the Republican nomination? I personally would find it very hard to go against my convictions." Faye also left us a quick voice message.
"Oh, Joey, if something were to happen to Donald Trump, the insane regime that is running our country now, well, we wouldn't have to worry about weight loss because our diet would be bugs and banana juice. Think about it, folks, bugs and banana juice. Get out and vote."
Your voice messages are welcome as well at 864-477-JOEY. The Truth text line, you can send me a quick note. Our text of encouragement today: may this year bring good health, wealth, and abundance to you and your family. Happy New Year from our family. God bless. And we also heard from my friend, my longtime friend, and was a frequent caller to the Morning Answer, J.R. in Westminster.
Mr. Joey Hudson, this is J.R. from Westminster, South Carolina. Doing great work, my friend. You're doing great work. But people should not be, I'll just say this, should not be surprised at all the fact that local, state, and federal officials, elected or appointed, feel so emboldened to strip or impede people's liberties because that's the ultimate goal that we have been seeing taking place in this country since 2016. You have a mainstream media that has long since been compromised. You have elected officials that are corrupt, and it has just really become more evident with state and local officials because they do not want people to think for themselves, nor have the religious and civil liberties and freedoms that God and the Constitution afford us. Anyway, keep up the good work, as I know you will. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, J.R. Always good to hear from J.R. in Westminster. Your messages are welcome as well. 864-477-5639. One final text from Faye says, "We, your listeners, are so thankful for your podcast. We learn from you so much." Well, thank you, Faye. I appreciate that. I appreciate every single person who has followed me on my journey with Just the Truth. Let me encourage you to forward it to a friend or a neighbor. Tell someone about Just the Truth as we grow this community. Send them my website, joeyhudson.com. joeyhudson.com. There's a couple of different ways they can connect, but let them know. Forward this episode. Forward this. If you're listening today to the podcast, when you finish, just hit the forward button on if you're listening on your phone, for example, and send it to several of your friends. So that they're familiar with Just the Truth as well. Unfortunately, the U.S. national debt topped $34 trillion for the first time. I'll give you the details on that in just a moment. Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Are you looking to buy new appliances? And are you tired of buying appliances from inexperienced sales staff who have absolutely no appliance knowledge? I got the solution for you, and it's real simple. You've heard me talking about Discounted Appliance Warehouse for years now because that's where I buy all of my appliances. And quite unfortunately, I buy too many appliances at times because of some of my rental properties. But if you want the very best brands, features, if you want a knowledgeable staff who can tell you what or help you decide what you need at a very competitive cost, a Discounted Appliance Warehouse is where you need to be headed today. They have an award-winning service department. They have almost perfect Google reviews, and they'll take good care of you, I promise you. Their award-winning service department will help you with their extended warranties. When you buy it today, quite often, their expert installation crew will install it today. So let me encourage you, if you're looking for a new refrigerator, washer, dryer, whatever, dishwasher, make the short drive over to Pickens for Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Find them online at dawpickens.com. dawpickens.com. So the national debt, which of course measures what we owe our creditors, hit $34 trillion as of this past Friday, according to new data published by the Treasury Department yesterday. By comparison, just 4 decades ago, the national debt hovered around $907 billion. Michael Peterson, CEO of the Peter Peterson Foundation, which advocates for fiscal sustainability, says we're beginning a new year, but our national debt remains on the same damaging and unsustainable path. The historic debt level comes as Congress races to finalize critical funding bills in order to prevent a government shutdown. We heard that back before Christmas, right? Well, we're going to be hearing the same old song in the next few weeks as we are facing another shutdown towards the end of this month. The national debt is expected to nearly double in size over the next 3 decades. And it's going to do that because nobody's serious about balancing the budget. You never hear that talked about anymore. So people are just expected to think that it's normal that our national debt will continue to grow. According to the latest findings from the Congressional Budget Office, we're going to see that nearly double. At the end of 2022, the national debt grew to about 97% of gross domestic product. Under current law, that figure is expected to skyrocket 181% at the end of 2053, a debt burden that will far exceed any previous level in the history of our country. Maya McGinnis, president of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, said, though our level of debt is dangerous for both our economy and for national security, America just cannot stop borrowing. Well, I get it's an addiction. It's a spending addiction that our federal government has. And then you start looking at the spike in interest rates over the past year. That's made the cost of servicing the national debt even more expensive as well. You know how maybe if you have a variable mortgage rate, you've seen that increase. That's what our interest expense has done on our national debt. It's costing us more than ever to have that debt. Because as interest rates rise, the federal government's borrowing costs on its debt also increase. In fact, interest payments on the national debt are projected to be the fastest growing part of the federal budget over the next 3 decades as well. Think about that. Our interest on our debt will be the fastest growing part of our budget. How does that make sense? How does someone not stand up and say, we have to stop? Listen to this. Payments are expected to triple from nearly $475 billion from fiscal year 2022 to $1.4 trillion by 2032. By 2053, the interest payments are projected to surge to $5.4 trillion. $5.4 trillion. Well, our nation is like a crack addict with a Visa card. Put that in perspective, that will be more than the U.S. spends on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and all other mandatory and discretionary spending programs combined. I'm going to leave you with that to ponder. That's it for today's Just the Truth. Sorry to leave on such a negative note, but we've got to talk to our elected officials and make it clear to them we're sending them to Washington to solve this problem. We're sending them to Washington to get us out of this debt. Yes, it's going to be painful. There's going to have to be cuts made, but we have to do that or it's not going to be sustainable for our children and our grandchildren. Appreciate you joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit my PhDweightLoss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, as I mentioned a minute ago, and I'd appreciate it if you'd send it on to a friend as well, go to joeyhudson.com, click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. And I appreciate you spending a few minutes of your time with me today. Keep those comments coming to the Truth text line, 864-477-5639. Your emails are welcome as well, joey@joeyhudson.com. That's it for today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, remember, folks, God's in control.